The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is James from Cave Dweller Music. I have my co-host Brandon with us, and we actually have another guest with us tonight, Brandon. He is the owner of Morbid and Miserable Records, and he is in Wasteland Coven. Welcome to the show. Great to have you, and do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm Brandon, and like you said, I play in Wasteland Coven. I work at Morbid and Miserable Records, and I am a music maniac, and I just try and get involved in music and the music scene wherever I can.
Awesome. I mean, you're in good company with the music maniac side of things. We both in that category as well. So I just wanted to ask, tell us a little bit about Morbid and Miserable Records. Where did that sort of start? How long's it been going for? And do you have like a vision for the label? Tell us all about it.
So I guess we got started late in 2020. Pandemic's there. Everything's shut down. And me and my partner, Jason, we were just very bored because there were very few shows, a lot less opportunities than there were. And we'd talked a little bit before about starting a distro just because we have a lot of music we want people to listen to and we want to try and spread around. But he had some people he'd talked to where they didn't have physical copies and he really wanted to make sure they got physical copies. So we said, all right, screw it. Let's go full in. We'll make it a record label and a distro. And so we did. So we got our first releases together, I think, right at the end of 2020.
Nice.
And since then, we've just been bumbling along, not really knowing exactly what we're doing, but trying to do the things we want to see in the world. I mean, in terms of a vision, our vision is just to get really good music out there and try to do things we want to see other people do as well. Just put out really cool music, physical copies, because we both love physical copies of stuff.
Yeah, there's something to that.
There really is, because I always want to support bands and make sure they can keep doing what they're doing, but it's much realer when you can have, a piece of art from them in your hands, something that says their name on it. If you can go through the ritual of listening to the physical media, it just feels special,
Yeah, and it's more than just that as well. It's like there's so much to a physical release. There's the word booklet, like the artwork. There's the way that like they've done the art on the actual disc. Like, there's just so much stuff that you miss out on when you don't have the physical copy.
And there's like so much nuance to it too. Just all those little details. I know that there's just so many bands where it's like, if it's your first thing you're putting out, there's just every piece of art you forget about. Like, okay, well, what do you want to put behind the disc? Okay, what are you putting on the disc itself? What goes on the spine?
Exactly. And then like, how many pages is the word book going to be? Are you going to put like any notes, or is it just going to be the actual lyrics?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I noticed that you don't really have like a genre you're restricted to. You kind of put out stuff all over the spectrum. So as far as you go, what is your sort of musical taste? What do you prefer to listen to?
I listen to a lot of doom metal and stoner rock, and just sort of everything all over the heavy spectrum. I also listen to a lot of punk rock. But the label itself, we stay open intentionally just because we both listen to so much stuff. We want to, make sure we can get everything that we enjoy in there. Just personally, I'm always leaning towards doom metal and going that way, but there's always a conscious part of my brain that's like, make sure you branch out a little bit. Don't go into a doom hole,
Yeah.
But the doom stuff that you put out is, I mean, a lot of it's pretty, it's quite varied. It's a more unusual take on the genre. I mean, like something like Kanan's Casa, that might be doom metal, but it's a very unique brand, I guess.
Yeah, they were very worried when they put out their stuff. They're like, well, how do we market this? Can we just call it Doom? It's not really straight Doom. Mm-hmm. And I just kept telling them, like, it doesn't matter that it's not straight Doom. It's really fucking cool.
It is, exactly. And like it's funny because you and I actually both collaborated on the Slog release. I did the PR, and you obviously did the album release, and that's another one that's a unique blend of different styles.
Yeah, I mean, with like a broad brush, you can call it Death Doom, but again, it's so much more than just that term. Exactly. It sort of spins all over the place.
It's like some funeral doom stuff in there, some sludge. There's a lot of different influences. Yeah, and then you guys have some super classic stuff too. I mean, like Poison Speed is like that's like Motorhead on crack.
I like that description. Yeah. Those guys are really cool too. They really work hard to put that style together, and it just comes out so great. Like for it's a little bit funny in how effortless they make it look, but they've honed their craft very well.
No, I mean they've kind of perfected their sound. It's got the old school throwback feel completely captured, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
And then, like, I think probably my favorite release that you've done, this was actually in my top albums of the year last year, was Black Knife.
Oh, yeah. That was, I still don't know how it happened, actually. Well, it was before we'd even talked about doing a label. Me and Jason, we drove from Toledo, where we live, to Detroit to see Black Knife play a show. And they were just, he told me I needed to go to the show. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I just went without really knowing them. And they were absolutely phenomenal. So, I bought a buttload of merch. That's kind of what I do. I just buy everything on the merch table. And then I just went home and didn't think about it. And then like 2 years later, it was just after we'd started the record label, they send our page a message and just like, hey, do you want to put out our next album? And awesome. Fuck yeah.
That's super cool when you get to work with people you happen to be a fan of.
I love it. It's the best.
And then, I mean, the latest thing that you put out, I just wrote a review for that the other day. The three-way split between Biffid Corpse, Surfer James, and Pythian. Those are all sort of local to your area acts, right?
Yeah, for the most part. It spirals out a little bit. So
okay.
Pythian are a Toledo band, so they're here in town, and we know all those guys, and so that was sort of our contact point. Surfer James is from Detroit, and they come down to Toledo a lot, and we go up to Detroit a lot to see them. So we sort of know them. We sort of run in the same circles. And so then they have more contact with Biffid Corpse, who lives out in Chicago. And so they're sort of more regional. But so it's all sort of like this Midwestern region where we're all from. Mm-hmm. So, it's local-ish, I guess.
Okay. Brendan, did you get a chance to listen to that one yet?
I have it in my wish list, and I haven't gave it a proper listen.
Okay, because I know you were jamming Sorry Eyes earlier.
Yeah, no, dude, I love Sorry Eyes. So good.
That was another.
Sleep Waves is an amazing album. I love it. I put it down 3 times already. I'm like, wow, like. When Slog came out, you did like a little release, and James was like, dude, check this out. And then I bought your discography, and then digitally, and then I was like, oh, let's like check this out. And then I already had a couple of things from hanging out with James prior. I had already had Black Knife. And I actually had Wasteland Coven because of Transylvanian. And so I was just like, oh my God, like this is awesome stuff. So let me check it out. And then Sore Eyes just hit it for me, dude. Love it. And obviously like Slog 2, like everything that I don't know. Those guys are nuts. Nick is insane, man.
He is.
But the Sore Eyes, I was just like, I got to dig deep on that. Like, I don't know, like I like it.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but Nick and I are actually friends. We hang out whenever we get a chance. He lives in LA and I'm in San Diego, so we're not too far from each other.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. He's the first person I've managed to hang out with properly in person from the whole music side of things since COVID started. So it's kind of cool.
Is he like as I just imagine he's kind of intense to be around in person, just because I guess I know him more from his works than I know him personally, but he's just got so much going on. I just imagine
he lives and breathes music. If you go to his apartment, like half of it is literally speakers and guitars, and amps, and it's just music equipment. But he's a super chill dude and very doesn't take anything too seriously, very laid back. So his work ethic and his personality are kind of different.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. And I mean, him and Jared, since they teamed up, have just been unstoppable.
I can't even keep track of how many projects they have and everything. And I want to support them, but I feel like there's so much that's just slipping through the cracks and I can't help it.
So that charity sampler that Brendan, by the way, we got sent through a whole collection of tracks from the label of stuff for the charity sampler, which we're going to have to go through.
Nice.
Which is awesome. But on that note, Nick sent, I said, do you have anything for the sampler? He was like, oh yeah, he has 5 albums coming out between now and when it comes out. Okay.
I swear to God, I don't know. I don't think he sleeps. Does he sleep?
At some point. Yeah, I don't know.
That beautiful son of a bitch. I just don't. I don't know, man. It's wild.
Have you seen Jared's?
So cool.
Sorry,
I love. I'm sorry. I was about to say is I just love that in all of his music, when he's playing guitar. You know what I mean? It's just it's just his signature all over the place in different styles and tones. But you're just holy shit, that's Nicholas Turner, man.
You're absolutely right. I love how he does it. It's just he moves between so many different genres, but you always hear him. It's always his specific sound.
Yeah. It's I don't know how to else to describe it, but it's his signature sound is I don't know if it's a tone or if it's a riff that he changes all the time that's the same. I don't fucking know, but it's amazing. I think it is.
No, I agree completely. And same with Jared. I mean, his drumming style, the second you hear it, you know exactly who that is. No one else plays the same way as him. And I don't know if you saw, have you looked at his Encyclopedia Metalum page?
No, I actually have not.
You just have to keep scrolling. It just keeps going down.
But the weird part about his page too, and maybe they fixed it since I've looked at it, is that it's still not everything, because he technically has more projects and they're split between different profiles because somebody didn't make the connection somewhere.
Right.
So there's another profile that has another scrollable list. And it's no, this is the same guy as that other huge scrollable list.
So I was going to touch on 2 more of your releases that we haven't talked about yet. Bone Folder, absolutely love that one. That is some fantastic hardcore.
Oh
yeah, those guys are local too, and they're fantastic musicians. That we really had to press them to put out physical copies of stuff.
A little bit. I apologize. Where are you from again?
Toledo, Ohio.
Ohio, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And so they've put out some cool EPs and stuff before, but they just very quietly put them up on Bandcamp instead of a proper release. And so we're guys, you guys are way too cool to be doing this. Please let us put this out. We'll do it right.
Well, I guess that's where the role of labels and PR companies and stuff actually comes into play, because there are a lot of people that are fantastic musicians but just don't get their music out there. Yeah.
And I feel that's probably the biggest part of what we do, is just pushing music for people who aren't pushing it for themselves.
Exactly. 100%. And then you had one more release. This is one that actually slipped through the cracks for me. I actually still have to check this out. I just haven't had a chance. Fake Muslims.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that's
abrasive, crazy, fucking nuttiness, James.
Okay. I keep seeing hype for it. So I meant to actually listen to it before we did this interview. I just got bogged down with work. So
it was one of the actually first things I listened to, because I was just like, oh boy, what's this about? And I'll let you know, it's definitely experimental.
Okay.
And it's good.
Okay. This comes recommended from Brendan, so I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did I see Pissing Contest has something coming up?
Yes. Yeah. So the whole story with that is it was sort of a studio experimental improv thing. So they went into the studio and they recorded all the stuff that's on that album. They also recorded a little bit more and they said, okay, we'll save this for later. So we have that little bit more that they've been saving. Okay. And so they're talking about finishing it up by adding a few more things to it. Mm-hmm. So once all that comes together, we're going to be putting that stuff out.
Sometimes, I mean, I really like it sometimes. Those albums actually sometimes end up coming out even better than the standard one, because you kind of have the mindset of when the initial stuff was recorded and then the mindset from the new stuff, and it kind of gives you a really diverse album when that happens.
You're absolutely right. It's a wonderful sort of it tells the story in those gaps mm-hmm. of what's been happening, and you can sort of hear the transition laid out very clearly.
Exactly. And do you know the band Yo No See?
I don't know them.
They just brought out another album. I just covered it the other day. I have to describe them as the grunge. They have they sound like Nirvana, but if Nirvana came up in the stoner doom scene. So they're like a mix between 90s grunge and then stoner doom stuff. Really cool act from the UK. But they did exactly that. So they had a bunch of leftover tracks from their last full length, and then they recorded a bunch of stuff in COVID, but they were just playing around with a bunch of different producers and other musicians. And the album ended up coming out as it's one track of their standard punk stoner stuff, and then one track that's folk fused with a bunch of unusual instruments, and then vice versa. So it flips throughout the whole album. Every second track is completely different. So kind of a cool release.
I like the sound of that.
It's kind of like that band, Who Did I Kill? Why can't I pronounce it right now? Who Did I Kill?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
They just they're punk, stoner, then they're all of a sudden out in the middle of the desert, jamming, and mm-hmm. then all of a sudden they're back to this hardcore shit, and then a little bit I don't know, not quite like a Choniki, but I don't know, dude, they're nuts.
That was the one that you reviewed them as one of your first reviews for the site, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them. That was some cool stuff.
Every track was different. You were just where am I going? It's awesome.
Yeah, that one was all over the place, but in a good way. So Brandon, growing up, music-wise, what did you grow up around, musically? What was your family listening to?
So I had no, I'm sorry, Brandon and Brendan, right?
I mean, you can answer too. You can both answer. Why
don't you answer first?
That's funny. God damn. See, this is the problem with having this whole name issue.
Let's go B1 and B2, like bananas and pajamas.
Oh boy. Oh, that's funny. Well, my parents listened to a lot of 70s and 80s rock. A lot of Bruce Springsteen and John Mellencamp, and a lot of Rolling Stones, shit ton of Rolling Stones in my house. A lot of even like 90s music, like all that like dumb stuff, like the shitty song in your mother's car, Sheryl Crow shit, you know, like all that like fun stuff. And then I like, for me, like, I don't know, I branched out, listened to a lot of punk rock and like that kind of stuff, but we're not here for me.
Me too.
So I remember my mom is tone deaf, so she's not really into music at all, but she really likes things that have impressive lyrics that tell a story. So she likes a lot of very horrible sounding things, but she can connect to it through those stories. My dad, on the other hand, he was a little bit all over the place, but he liked a lot of classic rock. And I remember at some point he was getting rid of all of his cassette tapes at like a garage sale. And I just kind of went through them. I'm like, this one looks interesting. And I just sort of took it out of the sale. I'm like, nope, keeping this. So I got some like Alice Cooper. I got some Blue Oyster Cult. He was really into Alan Parsons Project. So I got a lot of that from them.
That's fun. I have some Blue Oyster Cult that my mom gave me on vinyl.
I actually just got some yesterday on vinyl, and Fleetwood Mac as well.
Ooh, yeah.
Actually, I need to show you my latest haul. I got like someone gave away an insane collection. I got it all for like $3 a pop. But for me, it was my dad that influenced my musical taste. I grew up with Pink Floyd. All that 70s prog rock stuff was what I came up with, like Pink Floyd, Jethro Tull, Traffic, all that sort of thing. So I mean, half my collection of music, my vinyl, it's like over half is 70s prog rock and 60s psychedelic, because that was the stuff that I kind of grew up around. And my mom listened to like Tom Jones and ABBA, which I mean, nothing wrong with that. ABBA's fun sometimes.
Right.
I have a Tom Jones vinyl. I like Tom Jones from time to time. Go. But yeah, and then like I kind of got into alternative before I got into metal. So I was into stuff like the White Stripes and Muse at Block Party. I was like 13, and then end of 13 coming on 14, I picked up System of a Down and kind of just went from there.
That's so wild to think about.
I know. Well, System of a Down got a lot of people I know into metal, to be honest.
I think they were probably one of my first. They were, I'm pretty sure, my first big metal band that I absolutely loved.
Me too. I mean, they're so accessible for a metal band, but they're still heavy enough that I still listen to them now.
Yeah. I mean, I got to see them live. They opened up for Metallica with Korn and Kid Rock. And we skipped out on Korn and Kid Rock trying to find weed in the parking lot. Sorry, Mom. And then fucking saw System and Metallica, and it was just fucking so much fun, dude. It was awesome.
I don't think you missed too much with Kid Rock, to be honest.
No, we were okay with that. We were. Honestly, it was okay.
As far as like, unless you really wanted to see Bawa to Dawa.
Right, nah. And that would have been that era too, man. Yeah, It was so bad.
I imagine.
I wanted to mention, you had said like Jethro Tull, and when I turned 18, my dad actually brought me to go see Jethro Tull live.
Oh, dude, I would love
for
to
my
see
18th
Jethro
birthday.
Tull.
Yeah, it was a shit ton of fun.
That is awesome. They actually released a song last year that was genuinely good. I'm like, how are you guys still doing it? Did you hear it?
I have not. I actually was unaware that they have. Like, I fell out of like following classic rock like a lot. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, if Santana put out something new, I'd be like, oh yeah, let's hear that. Like, guitar solo slave,
He still is. He put out an album last year, or this year. He's been putting out like one every 2 years.
This year? I just said, I'm unaware of that either.
It must be end of last year, maybe. But I was either 21 or 22. That guy has not stopped, but the quality has.
I believe that. In one of those Cards Against Humanity packs, one of the answers is like Carlos Santana's horrible moaning guitar. And I got it. This made me kind of sad, honestly. I really love those first Santana albums. They're fantastic.
Too. Yeah, first like 4 are just phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then or you could be like a Cards Against Humanity. We had one that was like Meatloaf the music, or Meatloaf like the man, or you're like Meatloaf the sandwich or Meatloaf the man. You're like, what?
I was so sad when he passed the other day. I genuinely love Bad Out of Hell. It's one of my all-time favorite albums.
Yeah, it's like a rock opera. It's fun.
It's the ultimate rock ballad album.
I guess I was a big Meatloaf fan, but he's such a mixed bag though. He's a fantastic singer and a fantastic presence. He was an awful, awful songwriter. If you look at the ones where he has songwriting credits, his are just the worst.
Oh, really? I never noticed that. I have to have a look at that.
But he really is was a tremendous singer. But then he really lost it at the end. I don't know if you guys ever listened to the last album he put out.
I didn't listen to the album, but I saw the live performance and it was shocking.
Yeah, on the album, he's basically like whispering along to these tracks while guest singers carry the song. And it's very, I don't know that I could listen to it a second time. It was a sad listen.
Well, I know that his last tour he did, he wasn't on it. So he did like the Meatloaf tour, and then he got another guy to fill in for him that kind of looked like him.
It was the sandwich. It wasn't the man.
The sandwich.
I kind of think like if you're not present for your own tour, you should probably not do it. I don't know. But what do you guys think of? I kind of think it's a similar thing that's happening with Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. I don't know if you guys heard the latest album, but you can kind of, because people were saying, why did they turn the music up so high in the mix? Why isn't his vocals turned up? He's like one of the best parts of the band. And like, you can kind of tell he maybe is getting a little old and he can't hit the notes anymore. So I think that was maybe a bit strategic.
I haven't heard the album, but now I'm going to have to listen for that when I do get around to it.
It's just a theory. It could be completely wrong. It could be that they just mixed it that way for some reason, but I have a feeling that that's maybe what it is. I would buy into that hard, because I've definitely heard a lot of aging singers, they sort of lose that ability to hit those high notes. And it's a very mixed bag whether or not they adjust the sound,
right.
the music that they're writing to match how their voices changed over the years. And some people have done it successfully and a lot have not.
Right.
And some people do it with the low notes too. Like if you look at Nick Cave, as he got older, he couldn't do those like super deep notes anymore. So he kind of changed his whole singing style and then adjusted the music to accompany that. I don't know if you guys have fans of Nick Cave or not. Yeah.
Familiar, haven't listened to him in a long time.
Oh, you should.
It's overdue.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I saw Tim Reynolds play on Saturday night, and every time he was like talking, he's like, telling a little story or introducing a new tune or whatever, and he was just like, it sounded like he had to whisper this whole time, like it was like The Godfather almost. I was just like, poor guy, like his voice is so strained, like talking has got to like, it just sounded like it hurt. But his guitar music was fucking awesome.
There's some people that I don't understand how they're still going with the way they do their vocals. Like, what's his name? Tom Waits. I don't know how that man still has a voice with how gruff he sings. I don't know if you guys are Tom Waits fans or not.
I love Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Me too. I absolutely love him.
I guess I never really thought about it. I just assumed that his voice is naturally very gruff. But I guess
But when you think about it, listen to some of his songs where it's not, because he's got a lot of those songs where he sings without putting the voice on, and it's completely different tone. Like if you look at, give me 1 second, let me pull up a song name here. I have an example. Like anything from the album Closing Time, he doesn't do that. The voice is completely different on that.
He's a lot smoother on that.
Yeah. So it's like it's a tone that he chooses to take.
Then he should have a horrible time now that he's a lot older.
Yeah, but he can still go. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just does it right. I guess there's a lot of technique to doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because some of his best work was like way into his career. Like my favorite album from him is probably Rain Dogs, which was like 85. He'd been going for like a long time at that point.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's got some pretty weird tracks, but it's all of his album has some pretty weird. Like Singapore, the opening song is a bit odd, but I love it.
But that's part of the appeal of Tom Waits is that he starts from such a great folksy, just grounded position, and then he sort of piles on this fascinating avant-garde artistic nature to it, and it comes out incredible.
Right, and it's just like he just goes whatever musical direction he wants. There's no limits. Like the song "Hell Broke Loose," that's a heavy song. I don't know if you know that one from that album. But yeah, that one, that's a heavy song for a guy that's like primarily like a kind of experimental folk artist. Blues, I guess. He's hard to define. But we have kind of spiraled out a little bit. Brendan, I know you had some topics you did want to talk about before we run out of time today, so I'll let you ask some of those questions.
So what's your favorite Ohio craft brew?
So I'm going to be very disappointing on this front. I do not drink at all, so I know nothing about alcohol.
Not a problem there. Then how about what's the weirdest food that you've eaten?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, I think maybe it wasn't weird to eat, but it's weird to say. I've eaten ox knees.
Ox knees.
Ox knees. It was in some kind of a Korean soup. My boss is Korean, and he takes us to these little Korean spots sometimes, and he speaks Korean to the owners, and they bring us out special stuff, and it's great. It's always great. And I can't remember the names of any of them, but he's like, try this, it's really good. And I try it, and it's always really good. But yeah, that was probably one of the weirdest, is some kind of Korean soup with ox knees.
Nice. I remember a friend of mine was just like, oh, hey, you want me to bring you some beef tongue tacos? And I'm like, oh yeah, beef tacos. Sure. I got you. Definitely bring me like 3 or 4, like whatever you got. Like, and then he comes over and we're sitting down eating, and I'm like, I already ate one, and I'm like, wow, this is like, wow. And he's like, so how's that tongue? And I'm like, I take a hard swallow, and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, beef tongue. And I'm like, oh god.
Well, obviously it was pretty good because you were eating it.
Absolutely delicious, and now making me feel a little like what, did I poison myself right now? Like I'm just like eating this thing's tongue right now, and it was absolutely delicious. It was awesome, but like
those weird parts of the body are honestly a lot of the time it's off-putting, but it's delicious. Like, have you ever had brain? Brain is really good.
I've never indulged in brain.
What kind of brains have you tried?
Like fried lamb's brain.
Oh, pork brains are usually kind of.
It's very rich. I will say that, and it's like an interesting texture, but it's good. But the weirdest thing I have eaten is cat, and I did not know at the time when I ate it. But I was in Vietnam, and I bought a meat skewer from like a roadside vendor lady, and it was really good. And I was like, "What is this? This is awesome!" And then she's like, "Meow meow 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 meow." I was like, oh. Okay. Well, I guess cat's pretty good.
Oh, man.
Hopefully we don't lose a bunch of followers over that, but that's fine. Well, the cattivists.
Cattivists. Well, you didn't know until...
No, I didn't maliciously.
Those street vendors, man, are like... That's pretty wild stuff. Like, I want to go to India and eat a bunch of, like, street food.
I mean, I've tried. I have a very open mind when I travel. Like, I'll try basically anything. Like, I've had like tarantulas, stingray, jellyfish, like scorpion, frog, like if you name it, basically, if it's been presented to me, I've had it. Except the only thing I turned down was sea turtle because I will not contribute to that market. If it's not like unethical to eat it, I'll try it.
Gator's good.
Yeah, gator is good, and crocodile, both good. Ostrich,
fishy
camel.
chicken.
Yep, it's all good. Meat's meat. Pigeon's good. Anyway, this is really spiraling out. It's like, I tuned into that music podcast and they talked about eating different animals for 10 minutes.
So if you so you play guitar, right? Mainly.
Yes.
Did you grow up playing guitar, or did you start out playing anything else, or?
So I got a guitar when I was a teenager, and I sort of played it off and on, and it was always more of a songwriting tool for me rather than getting good at guitar itself, if you know what I mean. It was
like kind of creating the riff type of deal? Yeah.
So I was singing in bands primarily for most of my teen years and into my early 20s. And so I was still playing guitar, but it was mostly just to like help me figure out how the song was going to go. And then at some point I left my last band because I was mad at all of them for fucking around in the same way that everybody fucks around in their early 20s. You know, they're getting drunk all the time and stuff like that. But
not taking it serious. Yeah, I hear you, dude.
And so at that point, I'm like, all right, I gotta do this stuff on my own. So then I started playing guitar more seriously as a goal to play a guitar itself rather than just something to help me as I was writing songs.
Tell us a little bit more about Wasteland Coven, because we haven't really talked much about that. How did the band come?
Oh yeah, I love that.
So it doesn't have a spectacular beginning story. It was just kind of so Jason, who's also my partner in Morbid and Miserable, he's involved in a lot of different projects and he knows a lot of different people around town. So one day he just made a post. He decided he wanted to start another band. He's always in like 10 bands, but he wanted another one. And he was originally looking for something Manila Road inspired, I guess.
Okay.
And so he just posts on Facebook. He's like, hey, I need to start another band, dark stuff. Who's in? And so I'm like, I'm not doing anything. And Sue, our singer, was like, all right, I want to sing some new stuff. So he's like, all right, show up here at this time. And we did. And we just jammed. And I sort of asked him at that point, like, well, what kind of direction do you want to go in? And he said, well, originally I was thinking Manila Road, but now maybe let's do some Candlemass type stuff.
I can kind of see both influences a little bit. I mean, it's definitely more of a Candlemassy sort of vibe, but he's got a bit of everything in there.
Yeah.
Right.
I find it hard to, I guess I'm not strictly, when I write songs for that, I'm not strictly trying to go in any one direction. So we sometimes end up kind of stonery. Sometimes it's a little bit epic. Sometimes it's not all that doomy. It's just a little bit metal, you know?
Yeah. It's like also like Rocky too. Like there's some good licks in there, man.
And then like the vocals really mix it up. Like the music and the vocals, I think if you'd done it differently, it could have not worked, but I think you did it in a way very cleverly that it does work.
Yeah, Sue definitely pushes everything we do forward. And we really all do our best to build each other up and try and bring out the best in each other.
Is there anything coming up from the project? I mean, should people keep an eye out for stuff, or is there nothing in the works right now?
There is, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to say yet, but okay. Yes, there are a lot of things coming. So we originally Sue was singing and playing bass, but we got a new bass player just to free Sue up and let her be a little bit more focused on her singing so she can get even crazier than what she was doing before. So we are a 5-piece now, and we have some stuff that's recorded that will be coming out this year, and we have a lot of material that we haven't recorded yet that we will be recording later this year. So we're doing all kinds of stuff. Just nothing I can say a lot about, unfortunately. But there is stuff coming.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Getting wasted. That's awesome.
What about through Morbid and Miserable? Is anything coming up through the label that we should be keeping an eye out for as well?
Yeah. So our biggest, I guess, our biggest holdup right now is just getting enough money to do all the things we want to do. If we just had an infinite amount of money, we'd probably be putting out like 30 albums this year. But we don't have an infinite amount of money. So we'll probably put out at least 10 albums though.
Nice.
And our next one is probably going to be out in March, I think. We need to set an official date for it. But it is a re-release of Crimson Towers, Eternal Abyss, which is like an epic doom album.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be coming out very soon.
I'm excited then because Candlemass is one of my all-time favorite bands. Like just top 10 forever. I love epic doom, and I honestly don't think it's an area of doom that gets enough attention. Everyone does the Sabbath worship, but there's really not that as many bands as there should be that do Candlemass worship, in my opinion.
There's so many eras too that are so great.
Like, I would love to see some more stuff in the vein of like Messiah. Messiah from Candlemass, like that type of doom.
Like the opera singer guy, is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, that's the opera singer guy.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's just like,
I think it's just because it's so
Bewitched,
vocally
right?
demanding.
The song I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it is. What did you say? Sorry, Brandon.
Oh, the song, I think it was Bewitched.
Yes, yeah, that's him.
And just like, it's just so good, dude.
That song's it's not my favorite of theirs, but it is good. But
it's not mine as well, but it's yeah.
Like one of my all-time favorite songs ever of any genre is "A Cry from the Crypt," with him on vocals. So that song is just like doom perfection in my opinion. But no, I do agree with you that it is like it's hard to find someone that can do that. He was a very unique vocalist.
I think even today, there's a lot of talented vocalists who probably could emulate some of it, but then the next step is like, all right, now you have to be interested in this kind of music. And a lot of people who have that kind of talent and have put that kind of focus in are interested in more traditional forms of music instead of heavy things.
Right. Yeah. No,
you're like, if you could put like a super group together to make like the ultimate doom album, who would you get there?
I think, let's see. So I'm trying to not just think of a different Candlemass configuration. But it would probably just be Leaf and Messiah driving the thing. And then if we could get, who would be a good drummer to put behind them?
Oh man.
I think it'd be really great. What's his name? The guy from Testament.
The current.
I gotta look it up. Hang on a second. It's gonna bother me.
Paul Bostiff, or the other drummer?
Yeah, that name doesn't sound right.
There's John Dett. Gene Hoglan.
Yeah, that's Gene. I've seen him live a couple times, and he's crazy. Put him behind there just to give it that extra bump.
Guy's been in a lot of different projects.
I saw a band. It was actually a grindcore band. They opened up for Yautja, and they had 2 drummers, and it was fucking insane. Like 2 drum sets, 2 full drum sets for a grindcore band, and you're just like Chepang, I think is the name. Fucking
that sounds
nuts.
pretty intense.
Yeah,
That just sounds hard to pull off. Like with how fast they're playing. That.
Oh man, it was really cool to see live. It was really, really intense to see. This is like, I was like, well, like imagine if you had like 2 drummers for like a doom band, like one to like just like maybe like have like a total like just bass to like I don't know, and then have one like I don't know. You could work out some crazy shit with that.
I think that would actually work really well. I'd love to see that actually.
Yeah, I'd be down to see that. Because you see bands with like 2 bass players, 2 guitarists, 2 vocalists, but you never see 2 drummers.
Yeah. Well, I was blown away when I was like, wait, there's 2 drum sets there. And I was like, what's going on here? And then these guys were on point. It was awesome.
You're going to have to figure out the name and send it to me. Because it's
Chepang, I think.
Before we run out of time, we always end up going into this area, but as far as like movies and film and that sort of thing goes, what are you interested in?
So I like a lot of animation. I'm always impressed by big budget anime type things.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if you saw the first 3D movie from Studio Ghibli came out a couple years ago. What's it called? Earwig and the Witch. It was a very interesting transition of anime into 3D, and it wasn't always perfect, but it was a fascinating transition, sort of in the same way like with video games, seeing them transition from 2D into 3D. I feel like that's what I was witnessing as I watched it.
Okay, I've never heard of it. I know Studio Ghibli, obviously, but I haven't seen that one, so I'm going to have to check that out.
It's kind of cool in that it sort of ties back into music as well, in that there's this big tie to like a sort of a 70s prog rock band that sort of drives the magic of the film. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, that does sound super interesting. I mean, that's right up my alley, so I'm going to have to check that out. What else? Like, what are some other favorites of yours?
Well, right now I'm watching the Cowboy Bebop live action series.
How is that? It got canceled, didn't it?
It did. They didn't renew it for its 2nd season.
Okay. Didn't like it or something, right? That's what I heard.
It's a mixed bag. So I'm a huge fan of the original series, and I find myself just screaming at the TV constantly, just going wrong, that's wrong, this is all wrong. But if I can remove myself from that mindset, it's a good watch. Like if they could have just not used the Cowboy Bebop name and said it was inspired by Cowboy Bebop, I think it would have been good and it would have been successful. But you know, it's the typical thing of like you watch a movie based on a book and the person who read the book complains the whole time. That's definitely where I'm at with this.
The one movie recently that actually I didn't complain and it surprised me was June. I don't know if you've seen the new June movie yet.
I haven't seen it, but I'd like to.
Okay, I read the books. And I played the video game. I watched the old movie. I read the books. I played the video games. I'm like a huge nerd for that, the whole universe. But the movie was actually, I really didn't find much I could complain about. They kind of did it right for once.
Well, that's fantastic to hear.
I know. But having said that, I think part of it is because they took their time. So I don't know if you know, but the movie is like, I think it's like 2.5, 3 hours long. And that's part 1 of book 1. And there's 6 books. Well,
that sounds about right then. Yeah. If you're going to get through all those details, you really got to pace yourself correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, I kind of wish they had done maybe a little more with Lord of the Rings movies. I always found it really weird how they split The Hobbit into multiple movies, which is a really short book, and then condensed each of the Lord of the Rings into one movie.
The Hobbit is one of my great cinematic disappointments. Because I love The Hobbit as a book much more than I love The Lord of the Rings. So, and I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I had an opening day ticket to see The Hobbit. I was hyped up. I was ready to go, and it was awful. Look, every piece of CGI that they used in that film, it was horrible.
Because what made Lord of the Rings so good is it was all done with models. It was all real, like actors, models, like props. It felt very real. And then The Hobbit was so CGI that it just felt nothing like it.
Yes. And I mean, Lord of the Rings still holds up incredibly to this day. And The Hobbit was like immediately dated. Like as soon as it came out, it felt old.
Well, that's the thing with Lord of the Rings. Because they didn't use their technology, it's never going to feel old because it was actually all filmed. And I'm terrified about the new series coming out, the Lord of the Rings series. I'm really nervous to see what happens with that. I mean, I'm being optimistic, but Amazon is producing it, so I really don't know how it's going to go.
I don't share your optimism, but
I'm trying to be optimistic, just because I'm like, I don't know. It's set 500 years prior to the movies, so it's a whole new sort of story separate from the movies. So I'm interested to see. I mean, they have a bit more liberty to play with. It's not, people aren't going to be like, oh, they're not remaking the movies. You know what I mean? It's not living up to that same standard, but we'll see.
Right. Touching back to animes and stuff like that. Did you ever watch Howl's Moving Castle?
Yeah, I love Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah,
it's such a great little movie. I love it.
Actually, it's really nice. For our anniversary a couple years ago, my girlfriend, she took one of the pictures from Howl's Moving Castle and basically just painted over it so it was me and her instead of the original characters, and it's beautiful.
That's so cool.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
you've obviously seen Spirited Away as well.
Oh yeah. Princess Mononoke.
I love Princess Mononoke.
It's a great movie. It's a really good movie.
And then, Brendan, do you have anything else that you want to get through? Because we're just clicking over the hour here.
What is your best Macgyver moment?
Ooh, so when I was singing in bands, I was a very, very broke student, and I had literally no money. But we needed a PA to practice with. So what I did was I basically took an old like stereo setup for a TV, like that you would hook your TV through to power speakers, and I reconfigured that a whole bunch, pushed some more power out of it, messed up a couple microphones, but eventually got it working, and basically built my own PA out of it. And it wasn't super loud, but it was loud enough to get us through our practice sessions.
That's awesome. And then, food and beers. If you could play with any musician, alive or dead, who would that be?
So I like to set the bar low for myself because I'm always afraid that if I don't want to meet my heroes, I'm afraid I'll disappoint them. But I feel like I could really jam well with oh shoot, my mind just went blank. Sorry.
You're good.
I think it'd be really fun to hang out with the Shrine and jam with those guys.
Okay. Who's in the Shrine again? Yeah, I have to look them up. Give me 1 second. I think I might be thinking of the wrong band.
From I don't know the members' names, but they're from California.
It's like Al and I can't think about.
Oh, okay, yeah, yep. I know who you're talking about. All right, yeah.
I
can't think of the album off the top of my head, but they're kind of like almost like Ohm, almost. Right? That's what I'm thinking about. Like
not
that
the
kind
band
of vibe.
I'm thinking of.
They're from LA, right? And formed in like 2008.
Yeah.
They're like a kind of like a fuzz rock band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, okay, I know these guys. Yeah. I haven't listened to these guys. I can't say I know them well, but I am aware of who they are. Okay. Yeah, sweet. I'm going to give them a listen after this interview because I want to check them out.
Yeah, it's if you guys jam Bless Off, I think that's their second full-length album. It's a fantastic time. It's just hard rock, fuzzed out, stoner shit, beginning to end. I love it.
That's awesome. All right, I'm definitely going to give that a spin. Okay, and then if you could sign any band to your label, who would you choose? I mean, you don't have to be
that was nice.
Oh, sorry. I mean,
no, you're good. That was funny. That was great.
You can give two answers to this question. You can say like ultimate dream fantasy or like something practical that's within reason. Either or both, whichever you prefer.
That's a good question. You know, I should probably think of this like more seriously because, you know, so far it's just sort of been bumbling through and just taking whatever's in front of us that sounds good. So if we were thinking more goal oriented and I was taking this label stuff seriously, who would it be? So speaking from, I guess, recent experience, there is a band called Bog of Anguish, who's from Ohio, and they put out an EP, or I guess it's more of a demo, and a full length, and they have not gotten nearly enough attention. And I feel like if I could get to them, we could really push them a lot harder, and so that would be fantastic because I think more people need to hear the crazy stuff they're doing. So I'll give that as an answer. Bog of Anguish.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And then ultimate fantasy, like not realistic. Who would you sign?
Not realistic at all. I think Paul Chain. We could do some real weird stuff.
Awesome. So we're just gonna ask you quickly. Lastly, is there anything that you want to just let people know to keep an eye out for? Like anything, heads up, stuff people should check out. Just anything that you want to say quickly.
Check out anything that your friends are pushing you to listen to, because I think the best recommendations you can get are from the people around you.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, great advice. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really great chatting and actually getting to know you properly. Maybe in a little while when you have some more releases come out later in the year, we can have you on to chat about those again.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thanks for talking to me. I really appreciate it.